OK, but we are going to start with some breaking news coming out of Spain, where police have issued an update following the road traffic accident which killed Liverpool forward Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. Football correspondent Rob Dorset joins us now. So, Rob, look, what's happened today?
OK, so look, we've had an update from the Spanish police that are investigating exactly what happened in this accident which killed the Liverpool striker Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. And so we have to deal with this pretty sensitively, I think, because there's an awful lot of people in this country, in Spain, in Portugal, all around the world who are still mourning the tragic loss of Diogo Jota in this case. But of course, the Spanish authorities have to continue with their investigations. Yeah. And this is the first formal statement we've had from them since the crash, pointing to maybe some of the circumstances around it. So this is a statement from the Zamora Civil Guard. They've indicated that they think that Jota himself was the man who was driving the car. Here you go, you can see it now. The expert report is being prepared and finalised. I think that's important to stress. This is not the final conclusion here. They're still investigating. Among other things, the marks left by one of the vehicle's wheels are being examined. Don't really understand that. That's pretty technical. But that last bit is significant, I think. Everything also points to the vehicle significantly exceeding the speed limit for the highway. All of the evidence so far indicates that the driver of the crashed vehicle was Diogo Jota himself. The expert report is not yet complete, but as it is subject to a judicial review, it will be submitted to the Puebla de Sanabria court. So if you take the important bits out of that, I think you have to stress that this is a preliminary statement from the police. Yep. It is not the final report by any means. It seems to suggest their belief on what they've looked at so far, that Jota was driving the car when it crashed. And crucially, that's that quote, everything points to the vehicle significantly exceeding the speed limit for the highway. It's not full, it's not finalised, it's not finished. But it's a significant start in explaining exactly what happened to cause the tragic death of these two men.
And the reason that he was driving the car is because he was advised, wasn't he, in terms of his injury?
That's right. He'd had some lung issues, apparently, and so it sounds like the football club had encouraged him not to fly back for pre-season training. So our understanding is that Diogo Jota was actually driving back to catch a ferry back to England in his car when it crashed and he sadly lost his life. His plan was to come and rejoin Liverpool training, pre-season training. Now, following the funeral on Saturday, we know that Liverpool postponed the first day of pre-season training. Nobody went back on Monday, but they have, I think, come back today with one or two absences as well. Liverpool have tried to be as sensitive as they possibly can in this situation, and they've left a lot of the decisions to the individual players themselves. I mean, I think the headline said that any of the Spanish players or Portuguese players that knew him very, very well didn't have to return for training immediately. They could take some time to kind of try and compute all that's happened to their very close friend and teammate. I think Liverpool have applied that to all of the players. If they didn't feel ready to come back, there's no way that Liverpool would force those players to come back. But we've seen some of the tributes that the squad have been laying at Liverpool's training ground this morning when they have returned for pre-season training, and some of the supporters that have laid flowers and tributes as well. And that's why I think we have to, the pictures you're looking at there are of the funeral itself, of course, which happened on Saturday back in his home country. But I think that's why we have to be very careful in how we give you this very newsy update right now.
Yeah, I agree.
We have to be aware that people are still suffering, an awful lot of people are still suffering, and that's not just Liverpool supporters. And I think the Spanish police will be aware of that as well in issuing this update.
Yes.
It's not a full update. It stresses that there is still an lot more that they need to investigate and finalise and determine before they bring out an official report concluding what's happened. And it's my understanding there's more than one investigation happening into this crash. There's more than one body in Spain that is carrying out various investigations into exactly what happened. This is just one of them.
Yeah.
It's clearly an important one. It's a formal one. It's the Zamora Civil Guard who've been looking at this, an official body out in Spain. But just to recap those two key issues that they've made today, which I think are the crux of their statement, even though Their investigations are ongoing. They say they believe it was Diogo Jota himself who was driving the car when it crashed, not his brother Andre Silva. But crucially, quote, they say everything points to the vehicle significantly exceeding the speed limit for the highway. More details from Spain as soon as we get it.
Yeah, just finally, you mentioned as well today, obviously it's incredibly sensitive, and it is such an emotional thing for all these players that are potentially returning to pre-season, of which we've seen some of them returning to Liverpool today. And it is that whole case of some of them will want to go back to actually get back in a group and actually try to process what's happened, because they're going to have to somehow take to the field and play a game of football.
As a team.
And that actually probably seems very, very irrelevant and insignificant.
As a team, without one of their closest teammates. And I don't think you can put into words how difficult that will be for the Liverpool squad. Of course, there were some players in that squad who were much closer to him than others. But I think what we've seen over the last few days is a united feeling of loss around that football club. I mean, Liverpool Football Club has a history of tragedy surrounding it. It's had some horrific incidents to deal with over its history. This is the latest of them, and it's one that I think will be felt very, very pertinently by the players themselves. And so that's why I think it was probably a very sombre atmosphere and probably an important opportunity for Liverpool's players to get back today to the training ground to spend some time together. They've probably been mourning
that's what's
on their
greeting
own.
them right now. When they walk into the AXA training centre, and that's not normal.
And we've seen similar tributes, even bigger tributes at Anfield, of course, haven't we? And where the accident happened, and his hometown in Portugal as well. So there are reminders everywhere people go of the tragic loss of Diogo Jota and just how loved he was. None least of those at Liverpool's training ground. So I think the Liverpool players and Liverpool officials will hear this news that we're bringing to you now about this statement from the Zamora Civil Guard. And I don't know how it will impact them, is the honest truth. They'll have to digest it. It's not a final report, but it's a bit more detail about how their friend and teammate died. And however we deliver that, it's going to be difficult for them to receive, I think.